Is your microphone live? Your microphone live?
Yeah. 잠깐 내려보라.
Anthony, could you check and see if he's plugged in?
하긴 있지.
I thought I heard it.
Double to lose yourself. I think they double
It's live
on
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just was all the way in. It's on now.
They tell
That's good, Anthony, we got it.
tell.
I think the cable shot can.
미스무 짓으면 더 매버려. 뒤면에 그래서 이제 미스무 짓으면 되면 더. 그래서 이미 먹어도 돼. 여기서.
Well, just that a little bit.
Okay.
I think the cable.
현재 순간이 면에 됐어.
It's live. Oh, very well. Let's switch them back. That one's too loud.
I'll try to be loud.
Okay, no, it's working if you plug it in. You just plug it in all the way.
No, it's not working. See? I'll be loud. It's okay. 이렇게 얘기해볼래? 고문도? 지금 고문 미니스만. 이 마음에 내가 가야 말와. No, I'll be loud.
Begin with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of a lineage trained who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of a lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, a mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of a lineage, it is so. O son of a lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you were taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lama dang gampo jese jambe yama josebo gangi lodre dede nyedananda rasa jene dugo jeje siche inje togale bas kada sembe tselamari medadunya jese Raso pena pejitate, yana juju yangde son. Rota chero nyemo nyero, leje jaro droze. Mare muse dunye nyugu, jene jeze rarena. Dene baju saju tarsu. Yete ludo jase teveko, chada juna juni jete, talo mize jambe yamadu. Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi. Seden Chiki Cheravadete Dalu Devu Mabarasane Kada Ninju Junu Tobayi Radha Pabina Vatsetos. Continue with the short mandala offering on page 16. Saji Kuti Joshe Medoran Dale Jeni De Jamani Saji Judo Mende Pawai Nagyananda Juna Jabarasho Jetsu Nama Tamba Janaji Jugo Kala Jete Jete Jata Zabe De Jamani Saje jeje java vatos. Enamidala gane atayame. Continue with the refuge prayer on page 22. Sanye chodam soye chodam
Janjo Pando Dani Jaso, Nagi Chichi Jibe Sonali, Dala Bindre Sanje Drupara Yo, Chedan Soje Junala, Janjo Pando Dani Jaso, Nagi Chichi Jibe Sonali, Dala Bindre Sanje Drupara Yo, Chedan Soje Junala, Janjo Pando Dani Jaso, Nagi Chichi Jibe Sonali, Dala Bindre Sanje Drupara Yo.
야, 나무도 가슴을 메고 줘야 돼.在自己呢，等一下打到真宾主，是，不是得到100，等一下打到真宾主，他因为了，得了吕宋刚些呢，那帮就了帮完的，这个刚给到些呢，这个没被接帮白死，这个说什么去？但是那一说到太阳啊，那说的，가를 때는 요거나, 아니 제발 때는 요거래, 세야지래. 자, 나도 르송그래, 르송한테 가르나, 르는 거를 주었다. 저도 뭐 봐. 르는 여서 저도 방고래. 그래서 어느 반에 강 도그랬나? 아니 지금에 배치 방배스. 아니 르송야 지금 내가 줘 방한테 서 있나요? 얘도 줘지. 제가 얘도 먼저 이제 방고래스. 다 간다 소소 르송야도 소 간다 라리 예베 아니 세제 담지 기 현도의 체도 아니 르르네 가지고 방고래마 라니 지보다 저라니 지보요 라니 되고요 근데 그런 엔데 가지고 봐대 아니 시베기 지금 자침부터 땡서 보여 이렇게 말해도 소소 르송야 르소라 르네가 제서 방그레도 봐야돼 무이데 라이스제 담제기 되는 체도 아니 디블라는 거지 토야기 체도 아니 대 방그레스 데데데야 아니 안투야 대야 아니 템벌 되니 용그레스 다도 간데 템비기 체슈 시작하도 그래도 되는지
We're completely discussing on the verse 7. Here, what is protecting the body, it is giving up what is harmful, and how this is attained by giving up all fruitless movements. And you actually do, and then verse 8, it says you actually do that by being mindful at all time. So the previous verse talks about protecting one's body by giving up the harmful actions. The harmful actions are known as the fruitless movement. Although those are the first, it's also known as the fruitless actions. So why it is called fruitless actions at this point is because if one engages in the actions that are harmful to others, it is not something that doesn't have any consequences or it doesn't have any kind of fruit, but rather it is something that is harmful but will have negative consequences. Therefore, it's just said that fruitless, but that doesn't mean you're not going to experience any fruit out of your negative actions. What is meant by fruitless is now, fruitlessness here refers to the positive fruits, in other words, the virtues. If one engages in negative action, suddenly one is engaging in non-virtuous actions, and that bring about non-virtuous fruit. And so instead of that, one should turn one's attention towards one's actions of the body, speech, and mind, and make sure that your actions of your body, speech, and mind become a cause for a better fruit, for the better result. And this is to actions that are fruitful. Well, what is meant by the actions that are fruitful is the actions that are beneficial for other sentient beings. And the fruitless actions here referring to the actions that are motivated by self-centeredness and self-cherishing, self-cherishing motivations. So how can we really get rid of this fruitless actions, or giving up the harmful actions, in other words, is by paying close attention towards one's body, speech, and mind, accompanied by mindfulness. So mindfulness is the main factor here, the key factor that bring about, positive actions, which becomes the fruitful actions.
제가 대양다도 대비 루스는 거 제라잖아. 다 대비 루다 가는 배나 때는 루스 강내번 좋아. 단내번 좋았어데. 저랑 봐. 동도 저나 ana rāngu jōla ya chāngchū ka sēntā, an tōntu ka shērā rōsaka tōsā rāngu jōla jīyō na, ane dēyō wāngi lōla nēpa njūya yōnsu wāng kā rōya jirē. Tēnā yīndū, tēnā ka chāngchū ka sēngi nā rā, tōntu ka shērā yī nā rā, tōsō dē jūmi jīmen tēne rāngu jōla mō yōng wā. Tāngbō mō nē sōsō kē, ane bē tātā tāng, yāyāng rīpa jīyō dō, kāsī mō sō tēmbī kōla ya chēchū sōng, 시에서 말아와 드리빙 뭐 볼라 센지 제가 매봤대 나바 메일에 제스네 제주송 당봉을야 아니 유지 제가 드리빙 뭐 볼라스 저 동보들 야 드리고도 원유도 비시라는 줄 제발 몰래 저 동반이 거래야 상나 양양 다니 배 랑세다 되니 바로 리워시고 주소고도 근데 드리빙 다니 아니 남비 제가 무바달라 아니 매제바 때문에 뭐가 달라문이 매제바 제고 뭐야 제잖아 요거만도 리빙 뭐가 달라 매제바 제 마제바 상 마베바 엔데 넘버 메이메리 제서 들야 넘버 메이와 제니베 된주세 야야야야 콘데네 타 엔데 냐바샤니 오 된데제네 랑줄에 돈도베시레 제야나 자주세 랑줄 친성 제주 용거로 자 된데 유서보 아니 네번주 빵한테서 네 라무들이 돈도 비시라도 자주 세라주를 지금 그래야 아니 뇌주용 저 안가려야지 제가 내일 대략 뇌주용서 가통에게 라무들이 지야 아니 자주 세라 돈도 비시라도 소이네 준비 틀리지 요아야지 연구해야지
So, to summarize the explanation of verse 7 and verse 8 here, in order to eradicate actions that are harmful, one must engage in the practice. So we cannot eradicate, eradication of this negative actions or actions that are harmful to others does not come from nowhere. It has its own causes and conditions. Just as, so here now, this actual remedy or antidotes towards those harmful actions are the bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness. If one has this wisdom realizing emptiness or bodhicitta, then all those harmful actions of the body will be completely stopped and ceased, in other words. So, therefore, in order to eradicate all of this, we need two main antidotes that are bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness. So wisdom, in order to attain those two, we need to practice mindfulness. Without mindfulness, without practicing mindfulness, bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness is not possible. We already talked about the mindfulness. It is the rough meaning of mindfulness here again. Once repeat again, repeatedly bringing to a mind a phenomena of previous acquaintances without forgetting it, and it does not allow the mind to be distracted from the object. So this is the rough, meaning of what is meant by mindfulness. It actually has three features. The mindfulness has three features. One is the object, feature of object and subject and its functions. So this needs to be, bear in mind. It's important to remember. So the subject feature is, it's a familiar. So the object feature is a familiar object. In other words, the object that is familiar with, and the subject or the aspect feature, in other words, is a non-forgetfulness. Should be a non-forgetfulness upon having observed that object, the object that is familiar with oneself. And the third is the function. This function is the non-distractions, which is the function of that. So all of this, our bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness can be attained on the basis of cultivation of this mindfulness, without which bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness is not possible. So therefore it says, if one has actualized wisdom realizing emptiness, and bodhicitta on the basis of cultivation of mindfulness, then harmful actions of the body will all be ceased.
제가 넘어들래 리뷰 보라서 이제 밤에 봐서 도망을 요다 먹은 리뷰도 되게 가정으로 기재 좀 매제바 대기 가르쳐 그랬어. 소소지바 로로로 붙이니. 단단히 붙이 시는데 뭐바로 매제비 대기 가르다 그랬어요. 어떤 기재 용도와 제단님 temba세 temba이나 이지미지고 야고 이밍이밖에 요 말이 제단 tem바잖아. 가다 정도도 요모보다 ndiwa chego re cha tende yuala cheba mo chego e kichimo amazo tanda kando thore shewa ine imbare san te samai ba kanda ina kanda mina sa tele shinju chego ne de kana kaine shinju chego e ta te nane jamzo chu ne de chu jo ge de ne de to ne ba de cheba chego e kichimo ye cheba yo ge che to na ane chu ne谢谢等到在做每年的家长一般就送点我了，就当每年的家长就送点有时候得了说问题，全部店里接吧也不去接托人呐，那说这个阶段的 진지 말어와 뭐니 가이바 나히지 소소라 니기 시베 요소 저 내내 제바데 베기 좀 그래 내내 제바 제네 소소가 제도 있네서나 엔텔이야 제바 단디니 엔 소소가 마제바 제네 엔 야야야 konditea taane peje kadina teloria 야야야 khoya ka bede jabaina ane sosoge jibajibe jedene ngoyne suyiba te yaya kondite beogi tumejeba o de jumbe grande ndawang sosoge jaga kandaje tsaina ngoyne su tama jaga tsaina be kale da kana chunan ngoyne su tama yode jaga jawade ngoyne su tama tsamu sambo ente jaga sambo jire 나가 교육이 잘 차는 거래. 나 교육이 잘 차는 거. 근데 이제 대체래. 에는 먼저 뭐야 되는 거용 거로. 잔대도 제바지하다. 제바지 제대로 들어야 야야 건데 된 거야. 매집이 되기래라. 재미기 어느 가서 제주에 되래.
So this is how we practice, mindfulness, repeatedly bringing to the mind the phenomena of previous acquaintances, or the object that, or whatever the object that may be, is something that is one should bring to one's attention and one should bring to one's be mindful of that, object, and then bringing it to, again and again without forgetting it, and does not allow the mind to be distracted. In other words, try to observe that object that is previously known, and the way that one observe that object is observe without distractions. This is how we, practice our mindfulness. Of course, just mere mindfulness alone is cannot be a virtuous. There are, negative mindfulness as well, and non-virtuous mindfulness that leads to non-virtuous as well. But here we are talking about, in this particular context, we're talking about mindfulness that leads to the virtuous actions. So, so this one should always try to, repeatedly bringing to mind a phenomena that is chosen for one's object of meditation, in other words, and try to observe that without forgetting and without distractions. And now the object that has been chosen for one's object of one's mindfulness, whether one's observance of this object lead to positive or negative, then one need to undergo critical analysis. Because in the Dharma teachings, even the practice of Dharma, analyzing what is being taught and analyzing what is being practiced is very, very important. We cannot take it for granted. Just by reading and just by, somebody has said this and somebody has given this and this instructions, if we just blindly follow that, will not give us a good wisdom. So therefore, analyze it and try to see whether something that one is practicing or whether something that is studying the Dharma really leads to the reality or not. If something that is not corresponding to reality, then that's really a fruitless. We're not going to have any fruit out of it because we're not being realistic. It is always important to be realistic. So therefore, when we read the Dharma, even the Dharma itself, the teachings by Buddha himself, Buddha has stated repeatedly, analyze carefully. Whatever the instruction that I've given need to be analyzed. This is how he always advised, encouraged his followers. If whatever I'm saying that doesn't correspond to reality, you can discard it. And you don't have to put it into practice. Because something that doesn't correspond to reality, putting into practice is not going to be beneficial. So, so, so in brief, that whatever the after the critical analysis, if one sees that one's practice that one is doing is something that is virtuous, then one should stick to it. And as a practice of such, in other words, practice that is without, in other words, a faultless practice, in other words. Or you could say practice that is devoid of erroneous, in other words, errors, in other words, will then become a virtuous practice, so that as a result of that, one will experience a happiness, because the result of virtue is happiness, which is we all long to achieve. So practicing mindfulness is required as a practitioner of Dharma. Whether one is practicing following the practice of Sutra or following the practice of Tantra. Both of the practice of Sutra and Tantra requires mindfulness. And not only that, but even the basis of our practice of meditation must be developed on the basis of mindfulness, such as single-pointed concentrations, or the practice of samadhi must be built on the basis of mindfulness. Not only that, but also whatever activities, whether it is be it as a spiritual activities or the mundane activities, all requires mindfulness. For instance, if one is planning to do something after 1 month, and one should be reminded again and again, because you may forget it. It is very obvious, right? The mindfulness is something that is very, very important, even in our mundane activities. So if one is able to maintain one's practice of mindfulness, on that basis, one can then be able to build one's meditation, such as single-pointed meditation or analytic meditations. Be it whether it is analytic meditation or the single-pointed meditations, requires mindfulness.
Yeah, that and the can to tribute do said so the tribute do said the current membership and lavason len tempa tewe so da na kan tempa se na tempa se senju jire ina da tempa se ge yujen de ge yujen tempa wa da so jasan kan tempa ge ru se de tempa ru tempa ge ru de tempa ge kare yude jin ru so ina lang la ba so ya ne yu lang la ba so yujen de tempa jasan yujen tempa ge kare tempa na lang la ba so tempa lang la ba so tempa to na so so de la dar ji na le ji ta la de ne an ne ju yo so ba an ba ma to re so na kan der tempa ru se de tempa se de yujen ji re sen ju ji re ta tempa kare tempa na lang la ba so tempa.
So here now in brief, again, the mindfulness is a subject. It is a subjective phenomena. And that subjective phenomena, mindfulness, observes objective phenomena. In other words, objective aspect, which is in this particular context, objective phenomena here refers to the three trainings of the three high trainings. This mindfulness, being mindful of, in other words, being mindful of three high trainings lead to an unmistaken practice of Dharma. As a result of engaging in a practice of unmistaken Dharma, one will then be able to eliminate actions that are harmful to oneself and that of others.
자상 라바송 세데 라바 순리지 라바세 지레 테네 라바 띵한테 라바체 라바 시라지 라바스네 손당게 지베 그래 라바송 테레 라바송 로 데네송 서고레 라바송 주제 징에게 에네 데네들 송레 자상 라바송 다 데네송 테니데 코니 도슨 리더레 là-bas sont c'est donner son juge donner son juge là-bas son juge de la donner son ça va connaître toi tu l'as dit tu ne vas dire jaza tiens de là-bas son juge là-bas juge donner de la de ça va donner ça va là-bas dingue là-bas juge de la donner tenir là-bas chérie là-bas juge de la ane ngombe denes odu jene dalla basone siondu ente jije denes onde shale de yojire.
So these three high trainings, the high trainings of morality, high trainings of concentration, and high trainings of wisdom, and those three are the focal object of the mindfulness in this context. So what we are actually, what is meant by that, how do we practice those three high trainings? Then in order to practice three high trainings, one should then engage in learning of three teachings of the baskets, or the Tripitaka. Three teachings of the baskets are the contents of the three high trainings. The three Tripitaka here refers to Vinaya Pitaka, Sutra Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. Those are the three Tripitakas. And the high trainings of the morality will be taught by the Vinaya the teachings of the Vinaya, or the Vinaya teachings of the Vinaya, and the high trainings of the concentration will be taught by the Sutra Pitaka, and then high trainings of the wisdom will be taught under the Abhidhamma.
Doduna, Jujata, Jujere, Jujalaboson, Juja Deneson. What was it? Chadadanani, so Mosote, Lavason, Chamber, some Sambo, Lavason, Lavasuri Lavo Origina, that Lavasuri Lavan, Mambore, Tina Damazon, Duvelishina, Magichum, Sujana, Magichum, Sujana, Magichum, Sujade, Le Ma, yes, on my way to Shadure, Dread, Magitred. Chadam, Lugi Godi, Sojaba, and Masaba Jabatayana, Loye, Adene, Majaba Lambas. The son that Lu Godi Maria son, so the son shower, Sojaba, Secture, or and Masaba Jabayana Loye, then Majaba Lamba. The son that Luigi Godi son Saturday. 다 나기 거기 손세야 될 주, 차마, 츠주, 마자스, 마차스, 마고니, 셰레. 다 예지 거기 손데, 나르세, 뇌세, 로다스. 저때 주더래야, 먹이 주어서. 대빵도 먹이 주 뽕어서. 먹이 주 뽕이. 아니, 순주송어서, 순주세야 수단 투비가 특지라, 순주다 다시다지나다. 초단 투비 청지라 손진스 제가 나게 주고 무슨 송고요 그래서 뭐 아니 미주거니 소주 봐야 아니 저주나 마산제 대마주나 로이 봐야 아니 마제발레 봐야 아니 마고니 무슨시야 봐야 아니 참아 봐야 천주 봐야 마자 봐야 아니 이지거니 옛날세 봐야 뇌세 봐야 아니 로다 봐야
So now this Vinaya Pitaka teaches about how to practice morality. Of course, when it comes to morality, it is numerous. There's a numerous, moralities that are required for us to practice. However, at this point, for us as an initial practitioner, we should know the morality of 10 non-virtuous actions, abstention from, or the restraining from 10 non-virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind. So, regarding bodily actions that need to be abandoned is taking the life of others, in other words, killing not only the human beings, but entire beings, down to the insects. As the practitioners of the Dharma, one should refrain from engaging in all kind of actions that are harmful to other beings. So one should refrain from engaging in actions that are engaging in killing, the act of killing. Then the next one is stealing. So here, when it comes to, in the Tibetan word, it says, it's translated as stealing, but it is things that are not given to you. Even if it doesn't belong, if you find something somewhere, out of attachment, if you take it, this will also again breaking your morality. So it is majimbalemba in Tibetan, which means things that is not given to you by someone. This is all inappropriate. And then suddenly sexual misconduct is the third. Bodily, those are the three bodily actions that we need to abandon, or we should abstain from engaging in such actions. And then There are 4 negative actions regarding speech: lying, slandering, or causing a chasm among the society or between two people and so on, and harsh words that are offensive words, in other words, deliberately express an offensive word to others. We normally don't care about that, right? Because when we think about, when we would like to talk to someone whom you dislike, we always used words, even you are not yelling at that person, but the word itself is so offensive to that person. Not only that you are just using the words, but also your expression changes. And that really entails that our mind is not really trained well, because uh, we are not being aware, because when that happens, we should be very careful, because see, when you have some kind of motivation of saying something that is offensive to others, your mind is distracted. Your peace of mind is already gone. It's so, those are very, hypocritic. So, our those negative thoughts are so hypocritic. But we think that this is giving you some kind of strength and giving you some courage. But on the other hand, it is actually, destroying your peace of mind. So we have to be very careful with that. And then gossiping is the 4th one. And so then there are 3 negative actions that need to be abandoned. These are mental actions, such as covetousness, harmful thoughts, and wrong views.
这等待于呢，咱们说别呢，没有就呢，少卷的我就想呢，当然说都是吃了把啷个准备个了呀，一刚把我的说是每个毛头话的，今天不忙不我是说超个月的，那个说是通话线都细线都说超个月的，就这个今天用过呢，说是成本也不买电话的，真心买电话不用过的。제가 모두 랑간들이 bedroom 주요나 나서 소세 템바마요 젠들이야 또 도서 연구에 말어 바인샤제 남행지니 로샤고요 제가 나고 전시 때문에 지미지 템바 때문에 제가 템비 우송고 다 템비 우송다 마소데 가르기 따고는 시시생들 해버려 시시생들 간다잖아 시시생들 한 생주제 제가 temba tembi karaya, en telia, che mutan chondo wachi, to sale yumbi karaya, en teba pa pangengi senju chile, shi yen singate. Chazan temba ge tanda karala temba tendo, temba de temu patakan dendu mando, to pena mazu yungudwa, tomo solo to tanda raja saa tane, and paru jil sano de yeda jigar shoro. And Portugal, 나는 당연히 트렌드요. 다양 상황에서 현대 과시했네요. 시즌 20, 야 대응만 대상을 쳐도스. 영어도. 제가 시즌에서 너무도 tende지라고 그래. 그래서 너무 시즌이나 하고 두어지래. 소들 이제 가나가 있는 지금 장르가 그래. 버르지는 저지가 살지 너도 참여는 이제 생각에 신다지래. 쇼노를 다 고바왕게 쓰고 그랬잖아. 근데 쇼를 버르지를 하고 그래. 나는 당연히 들 상황한데야. 다양한 상황을 들은 것이야. 리무스는요, 상을 대응을 하자 못 받는 소리잖아요. 형도 막 상하다 주로. 제가 내 가르 통하는 temba디 인가 못 받는 내내봐. 그배하고 신다를 쇼를 해 수익이 받는 시익 통발. 시익 통하는 temba디 나못 받을 거면 요처 손이 땡도와. 제가 무슨 소주 마음이 상보 소소고 가디나 소주 무슨 상을 temba디 땡고 그래. 나 소주 상소도 받은 거에 그래 지금 뭐 공부하지 로디리 대두리 와다 소소가 집에 르하고 자가 가르치게 가리나요 소주 먹는 사람 소주 누르도 제발이 소주 먹는 대만 제발이 샤고 대샤도 문도 대시게 되게 다게 되게 제고 저들에 아 트레비게 단다 소주 너무 다운 서로 엔티 트레바도 소주 모두 주변에 가는 것도 살아제 제용이 그래야 소주야 너무 거
So here again, all of this observation of morality requires mindfulness, without which the pure morality is not possible. For instance, if we are walking outside, if we are not being mindful, and if one is lack of mindfulness, then one will, either accidentally or deliberately will take the life of others, and we will engage in all kind of actions that are harmful to others. If one is accompanied, if one's mind is accompanied by mindfulness, then when one walk outside, one will always be mindful of one step. Even taking one will able to remember the step by step that there might be some creatures, beings, I have to be very careful with that and not harming them or not killing them. And this kind of mindfulness should be always with us. So in order to have a mindfulness, again here, the introspection or the meta-awareness, called the meta-awareness, is very important. Whether one is remaining or whether one's mindfulness is stable or not will be detected by introspection, the mental introspection or the meta-awareness. So both mindfulness and introspections should go hand in hand in order to observe pure morality. Let's just take an example of something, it's a simple example that here we can say that when we were thinking about, when we were focusing on something that is important, not necessarily meditating or doing some kind of dharma activities, but we are doing something important and completely focusing on that. And one is trying one's best to not to distract it. But however, at some point, when you remember that you are not being on that, you're not observing that particular, activities, and your mind is somewhere else. And then you just immediately that, oh, I shouldn't be there. That I shouldn't get distracted. I should bring my mind back to that particular object and so forth. And that is the introspection. Is actually the functions of introspection, and then again the introspection will bring the mindfulness, and mindfulness will then again observe that the object, whatever the object that's being observed. So this is how we should. Those are all those factors that we really need to enhance our spiritual practices, meditations and so on. And so here now again, let's take an example of taking the life of others by knowing that if one takes the life of others, or if one kills, engaged in act of killing, what kind of consequences that we may have. what kind of result that we may experience by killing others, by taking the life of others. With that in mind, one should always be mindful of that and not engaging in actions that are harmful to others, and particularly killing other beings. And all these practices of morality, including abstention from killing other beings, not necessarily human beings, but other beings, including insects, will be perfected based on cultivation of mindfulness, based on application of mindfulness.
배낭도 모델로 다운로 그래. 제 집에서 땡고도 안에 나가 공부해도 그래. 나가 손도 들리고 집에서 땡고도. 제가 제가 맞는데 모델 대주지야다. 저는 요거로 제가 제시가 땡고도 되나지 소소소 소매주 있지도 안에 도와서 집에서 땡이나 소매주요 배나 요거로 제가 당고도 모델로 대지소 주변에 가는 채로 되나지 소주하고 들려주는 되게 랭게하고 디롱이 받으러니리 공마지마도 메뉴하지로 와서 되는데 소주 탈이야는 제가 때는 소주하고 배치가 이렇게 말해.
So, for instance, when we were driving, we're being very careful and being very mindful, right? Without which we may end up having collision. So, in the same manner, we should always pay attention, just as how mindful that we are when we were driving. Similarly, we should, when it comes to our actions of the body, be so mindful. We'll always be mindful at all time. In other words, be mindful at all time, which will then prevent oneself from engaging in negative actions such as killing of others. Because as we spoke earlier, that if we kill something, either it is intentionally or unintentionally, we will always have the consequences. An individual who engage in that actions will experience the result. So therefore, with this in mind, one should think always, I should do whatever I could to the fullest extent of my ability to engage in my actions of the body that is not harmful to others.
세상 소주 방세야 돼요. 다가서 많이 봐. 준세 양다 유백더니 때 준세도 이미 좀 되고 그래도 소주에는 소소 랭은 소주를 내들래 내바이 발래 내바이 주세 가나 근데 때 리베드라는 동네용 거야. 내가 때니 소주를 랭은 발에서 그러잖아. 소주 랑 소주 봐. 얘는 제 소주 줘봐. 와다마다 무슨 주성 토네. 무슨 주성 토네. 안도 소주에 자와지 상황에는 내 소주를 내래. 그거를 내도 아니 소주 방고에 봐. 아니 소매주에 치듯들 제바야 뭐 되네. 소소 송조야 뭐 제고에 봐. 와드기 좀 말해.
So the statement not taking the life of others is not simply unexplained or unjustified statement. It has a lot of reasonings. It is strongly supported by reasonings and explanations. The brief explanation here that why we have to be careful with our actions of the body by not causing harm to others is because if we engage in actions that are harmful to others, and this will not just be I will engage in the actions that are harmful to others, and then when your action is done, it is not finished. We may think that I'm done, I did something to that person, he or she has deserved it. But we think that is completely finished. But we're actually carrying that propensity. And then finally, the result will ripen upon us, and we undergo suffering, whether it is immediately or, even according to the Dharma, even in our future life, we may experience this result that cause harm to others. So therefore, one should always be mindful of not engaging in actions that are harmful to others, particularly of killing others.
what's the joy?
Should we take some questions or? Maybe.
I think this is difficult to practice, but I think we understand it. It's not hard to understand.
이거 똑바로 제면도 숨도 제가 다 하모고 제면도 제상하고 이내 냠len 라다제알레 강게 도리마 영이 없는 와스네 하모고 제면도 숨도 그래서 좀 세우면 그렇게 되겠네요. 세우시도
다들 좀도 이제 템바스야 돼. 라바 띵은지 라바 로이나 달로 틀지 라바데 magi chubang tsuru thore che deyanda magi chede rindri guji mare pen so chuban de jana tege chuba che ane dalaba tingan de laba seade tingan de seade sozogi yo kanda chere ya moba tingina te moba de muten te kana ya to se chito ane bage sozogi 제선 되게 봐도 문제 때문에 무바도 아니 세차다 맞아 유비더니 저도 같이 되네지래 띵엔서 그러다 라바데시나 제가 되게 띵엔서 돼요 제가 들었더니 가나고 무대인데 제가 송고로 제가 송고로 와 제가 제배기 무대도 손이 엔터가도 소를 하니지 요거로 와 저들은 띵엔즈 세야데다 또 신행 가능시 거래 제가 띵엔즈 때 가르치 친구는 띵엔즈 신에데 가르치 친구는 돈을 내서도 또 와라 라니키 저런 것도 비슷하게 잡아라 아니 근데 띵엔즈 되면은 신에 되면은 돈을 내서 또 두고요 말 제가 근데 이제 근데 띵엔즈 돼요 근데 준비가 들었더니 또 준비가 들었더니 요거 그러잖아. 저 동반님의 공이나 아니 요 강화로 지르문이 준비가 또 손이 근데 라문이 또 동안 그래도 야야 건리 때니 그래도 뭐 된지서 또 아니 준비 야야 건리들로 제사들은 다 무슨 또 도와주는 거로 자 내일도 아니
So let's move on to the next high trainings of concentrations. So high trainings of concentrations, if we speak of the actual trainings of actual concentrations, the actual concentration is single-pointed concentration that is with clarity and with strength and clarity and strength, and being able to place one's mind on whatever the object that has been chosen single-pointedly without any sense of tiredness and as long as you want. And that is the brief, meaning of what is meant by actual concentrations. But of course, we as initial practitioners, we have not reached to that level, but we are trying to be able to actualize this actual concentration. So this again here, this concentration again must be built upon the support of mindfulness. Here again, the mindfulness is a very important factor. For instance, without mindfulness, it is not possible for one to have these concentrations, one will not be able to gain perfect concentrations. Without perfect concentrations, one will not be able to ascertain emptiness.
Tene ta dengmo le ngo tomba de question du sambo jeba de le ngo te jeba ma le ngo le ya shine jing mani into jeba jini to ngo to le ngo ta dengmo le ya tingen de question du sambo jeba ma jeba jini to mo ngo le mo te ko ngo le ya lo de to lenge jini pe se cha yo ba ma cha yo ba tang cha yo ba tene ji ene mo te ta kan lo to shani da na ju shong no le 소나지는 땜바 토바다 타치마들의 시험을 마음으로 노래 자상 내자지 주제지 전에 될 모델 걸로도 제주도 샤도나 안 땜바 토바다 소소 자상 되지 봐도 아니 모델 걸로도 샤도 타치마스 되는 샤워 제가 간다죠 근데 간대지래 모델 간대지 걸로 샤고 있는데 템비고서 배는 뭐 되는지래야 소다 팀에서는 뭐 대샤는 거래. 양 소다 루로부루. 다 루로부루 돼요. 다소 지금도 소다도 나고 이반을 오야 대여받는 마단 엔텔레 팀바샨도 장카제다. 근데 야나 오야 대고요서 야마 당고요서 텔레 팀바샤기는 그 대기문을 못 버려. 제가 가다죠. 된다게 권리 때니 탈 소소그 뭐가 가야 뭐지 가래야. 근데 소소로 어디에 Siksa Samuccaya ba tos che tan de ji ba sha to de le ji so go de ding ye de de che san dan de chemba ge mu de ya zu ma na de ba de sho na an lo de ta ma de ga ma ko she na de ba de ka wa chon na lo de chon to bo mu de mo de ga de mu de mu sha na ya de ba de she da ji de ne ba de ba jo sho sa ba de na ba de go ba wa ge ji go je de wa ina an 지지도 바길로 랭기 샤데 요두고요. 저도 내도 도망을해야 안 되는데 뭐 제가 템보서다 제가 템보서로 제가 되게 뭐뭐 찍거나 또 템보지네. 그래서 봐 전도가 가요가지 저는 봐 샤도고요. 되는지 뭘 거기 된 소리네. 될 띵에서.
So this single pointed concentrations requires a rigorous practice. Without practice, without continual practice, it is impossible for one to achieve this actual single pointed concentrations. So single pointed concentration, as we mentioned earlier, that observing the object that is chosen for one's meditations, being able to place one's mind on that object of observation without any distractions, single-pointedly, with strength and clarity. Again, if it is blurry or something that you are unable to maintain the clarity of that object or it's become a clumsy, then one is not actually, attain what we call them this actual single pointed concentrations. So how do we identify and how do we know whether one attains single pointed concentration here? It's now according to the teachings, where it says if one is able to maintain at least 4 hours of one's day, being able to place one's mind on the object of meditation without any distractions, with full strength and clarity, and being able to place one's mind on that single-pointedly. And that is the point that you have actually achieved single-pointed concentrations. So, so this again here, requires a mindfulness, plays a very key factor here. And there are many different ways in which one engages in practice. One practices how to attain this single-pointed mindfulness. The first or the preliminary practice of engaging in the practice of single-pointed concentrations is well-known practice that is focusing on one's breath and a circle of one's breath or the respiration, and being completely observing one's breath. Even if you hear something, or if you see something, or you feel something, just let it be. You can feel it, you can let it. Don't try to not to hear things. We cannot prevent it. Something that there's a noise, we cannot prevent the noise from, we will hear it, but the important thing is do not make a story out of it. You should not go your mind out after that, noise or whatever. But rather try to remain your mind single-pointedly, completely your own breath, the circle of your breath. And try to remain as much as one can. But we should not put in a lot of effort again, not intensely, then this will make you tired and it will not, you will not have a desire to do it again, in other words. So try to, focus your mind single-pointedly on your breath, the circle of one's breath.
다들 띵인석에 세대로 담아대 신해서야 돼. 나중에 좋은 시대 신해서 다지 띵인석에 되게 그런 거 가서 니바로 세대에 받대 다 신해 통화해야 돼. 제가 신해 거래야다. 증거인이나 타와 정화도 그거니나 타요 타네. 근데 신해 도서나 안 소소 올라도 무대가야
So when such practice of concentration is perfected, then one is said to be achieved what we call calm abiding or shamatha. And while shamatha is the characteristic of shamatha is free from distraction and dullness.
저는 신해성에 모두 지원을 거래야 신장이 있으면서 우리 신장들 루시지 세시장이 이루와 신장이 있으면 랑이 문바라 매매 루루도 주비 땡한테 서워래 제가 매매 루루도 서고 제 työ매가 나와 매매 제목이 나나 슈슈기 아니 용대 그 땡한테 용대 제서워래 신장이 있으면 랑이 문바라 매매 루루도 주비 땡한테 어디에 저랑 줄을 쳤나 하나랑 줄을 얘네 뭐네가게 쇼나 셰대가 얘네 세대지 제발에.
So according to the teachings of the Dharma, where it says shamatha is the characteristic of the characteristic of the shamatha is the concentration that is accompanied by mental and physical suppleness, and be able to place single-pointedly on the object of meditations effortlessly. That is called actual shamatha.
근데 중요하나 당번이 당번서다 제로부 도저도 유명하지 말했죠. 다른 말로서 때 랑주를 위한 표현도 그러면 다들 유명하게 다른 건데 되니 소소 제 가자니 아니 주제니 어떤 날이야지 가서 도도 건리 된 거들 소소 로중 토니 건리 된게 나라 소소 다시 공부하지 그래야 아니 배우 소소게 제마데 공부를 하네 공부 지니 공부를 본도고서 공부 이바바고 예바바고서 대날 때문에 거예요. 소소 칼라서게 칼라칸드라다가 소지고 칼라칸 로고서 소소 어떤데 때문에 안데 때문에 그 tempo지 요 가로 지레된 대체야 보여가지고 그래서 대소소 나주 권리 가를 돌리나 대나지 돌려 아니 tempo선이 권리 되는 거래.
So this requires a practice in order to achieve this calm abiding. We need to engage in the practice following the proper procedure for the proper process, in other words. And because without practice and familiarity with this practice, one will not be able to achieve shamatha, irrespective of how much desire or aspiration that you may have to achieve shamatha. And there are many different methods or the process of practices for to achieve shamatha, such as, as I mentioned earlier, such as focusing on one's circle of breath, and also there are many other practices. When one is even walking, one can pay attention to one step, or even think about that. My right leg is up, left leg is down, my right leg is lifted and it is down, and so on and so forth. This is how we should practice. Every time there's many ways that we can practice mindfulness, even when one is eating. Just think about when you are eating. Imagine that when you are eating something that we're using our hand with a spoon or fork or whatever. Okay, I'm touching this by my hand or maybe a fork and putting it into my mouth. And don't distract yourself and do not think of anything else, but just think of your food. And when the food is in your mouth and when you have a taste, then again, you just try to remain focused on the taste of the food and then swallowing your food, and you're chewing and swallowing and again touching it. There are many ways of engaging in this practice. So when you become familiar with this practice, then you will see that you will be able to, sustain this practice maybe a minute, or maybe 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then this will then, as you develop your practice, then the time frame will increases from the 4 minutes, 5 minutes to 30 minutes, an hour, and so forth. So on the basis of this single pointed concentrations, then one achieves, one will then be able to achieve wisdom, realizing emptiness. Just again here, the mere perfecting one's shamatha or the practice of concentration alone will not automatically, uh, you know, enables one to achieve wisdom, realizing emptiness. Then there again, it requires of practice. If one have already listened to the teachings of emptiness, meaning of emptiness, and you are familiar with the meaning of emptiness prior to one's perfection of one's practice of shamatha, and then as soon as you are able to achieve this shamatha, then this will lead you to have at least, even not even although that one may not have gained this direct realization of emptiness, but one can at least gain the realization of emptiness, conceptual realization of emptiness, in other words. And with this, then eventually, on the basis of this shamatha, one will then be able to achieve wisdom realizing emptiness, which is the highest form of wisdom realizing emptiness, which is direct realization of emptiness. That is what we mean by, uh, the high trainings of wisdom. Of course, when we talk about wisdom, there are many kinds of wisdoms, but here in this particular context, we are talking about the highest form of wisdom, which is wisdom realizing emptiness. So although that we have not yet achieved this actual meditative concentrations or samadhi at this point, we do have a potency. We all possess the imprints or the basis of actual meditative, single-pointed meditative concentrations. So on that basis, if one puts an effort, take a keen interest in achieving the single-pointed concentrations or samadhi, one can do it because one already possesses the basis upon which one can develop this single-pointed concentrations. Similarly, as of now, we as initial practitioners, we do not have the wisdom realizing emptiness, but we do have a wisdom that can be developed into further and become a supreme, which will become a supreme wisdom that can realize emptiness. It is not that something but wisdom that we have no wisdom at all. If there's no basis upon which we can build this wisdom, then it is almost impossible for us to actually have this wisdom. But we do have wisdom. All of us possess this wisdom. So therefore, it is upon us whether we want to enhance and develop this wisdom, the quality of this wisdom that we have right now, and bringing and making this into a wisdom that realizes ultimate nature of reality.
我是多么的想法。
That's all. Let's stop here with this.
We say the dedication prayers on page 23 and 24, and then continuing with auspicious wishes on page 28. Dagi jide sape
Yawadi tena ruwa kula kamera, chabara juse basan tabaye, tembe nipo rindo saje sho.
saji poki
Kaje me to chan, rara leje nide kebal, sanje jindo mune boai, roge nanda jina chabara sho.
kewa kundu
Yanda lama dan dame chuje pela lo chuje, sadan la jue yede lo zoni, doje changi kopa nyu to sho.
yedam guru
Rena mera lakane atayami,
jesun lame
kwase lo teje, naga jele jojo jeba, lozan tebe jume sansonji, joye mese tato denjuroji.
Gari wawe
Koye shinkansu pedan dewa malu juwe, chere zewa teze jasuri,
chape
sede vado tenjuroji.
champel power
Cheda jemba dan godo zambo deya nejete, teda gweje jesu danuji, mewa teda tamje rato mo, yosa jebe yawa tamje ki, Noa kana choto ngabate, dake giwe tsawa nigwe, sambo jeje roto morani. Thank you.
Coming back.